Hey, it's Juck. We are not bemoaning the noon kickoff. We are now owning it. It's a badge of honor. We're the lunatic fringe that defines our coach's legacy when it comes to this game. They don't get to define that outside the family. We're cut from a different cloth. We're Ohioans. He's got it all, man. He's even got the jaw. You know the jaw. You see that jaw and you're just like, yeah, man, that's a dude. Do I want Michigan to beat Oklahoma? No way in hell. I don't know what world I'm living in. This is insane to me. And if you saw my outburst, I apologize. It's showtime now. It is showtime, friends. Showtime on a Friday. I'm your friend Juck. Appreciate you so much for joining me here at Juck on Bucks. And we have got a banging Friday show. I have so much I want to get to. There's no chance this is getting all in one episode. It would be too long. You'd never watch it. I'll have to split it up a little bit. The Buckeyes take on Grambling here soon. And Grambling, the second historically black college that Ohio State has had up at the shoe. I'm pretty pumped for that. Like, as a guy who loves recruiting, we're going to get to see a lot of guys who have been sitting in many cases for quite a while, or guys who are freshmen that we've known about for a couple of years now get to make their debut in the scarlet and gray. And these games always excite me, particularly after a big win. Rest up and get to see the young guys play. I love them. I've got some predictions as to what we might see from some of those young guys, as well as a couple of those guys I'm really excited to see play in that game Saturday. Guys that aren't, the top 5 players in the class that everybody's going to be talking about, but a couple of other guys. And I will probably have to do a separate episode on the predictions in the games that we're going to be watching this weekend, as well as the gambling picks, because it's just too much. It's too much. But let's start with Grambling. Actually, let's start by liking the show. Now, Grambling got a great band. They call themselves the best band in the land. I'm really excited about this. When we look at Grambling, they were added to the schedule last year. Ohio State took UConn off the schedule, and UConn doesn't offer anything that Grambling doesn't, right? UConn would be better, but they're both going to not be a matchup for Ohio State, let's be honest. So I would rather let Grambling, a historically black college, come up and experience what it's like to come play in, a cathedral of college football like Ohio Stadium. In addition to that, those HBCU bands are awesome. I think that's really cool. We go back a couple of years, and what was it? FAMU was going to come up and bring their band, who is like the 100 band strong band or something. They're an awesome band. They got suspended and couldn't come, and it was a real bummer. As far as I know, the Grambling band not suspended. They will be in attendance. And if you're going to this game, a pretty cool one to go to. But I had thought about Julian, and we kind of brought it up on the Buckeye Huddle primetime show on Wednesday. And I thought a little more about it. So when we look back at Will Howard last year, Ohio State is in a natty or bust season, right? You're in a natty or bust season. You've got a new quarterback, but a very experienced new quarterback, not experienced in your system or with your people. And you've also got Devin Brown as his backup. The only, what he played, not too many snaps the year with McCord. I don't know, what was it, like maybe a quarter and a half, 2 quarters against Indiana and whoever it was the second game of the season. Wasn't a lot of football. Then he plays in the Missouri game for a little bit, quarter and a half, hurts himself. A guy that just hadn't played a ton of football. And when we look back, we were in a similar situation as we are this year. So the Buckeyes are playing Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall, I think, to start the year, not in that order, but 3 cream puffs. And as I'm looking back thinking, I remember having the same talk, like, how much opportunity is Devin Brown going to get? How many snaps is Will going to get? You want this starting quarterback to get as many as he can in his new system. You want him to get the feel with his new receivers in a real game. But you also don't want a totally unprepared backup quarterback in a natty or bust season, a guy who's got no experience. Now, we roll into this year, and Julian is the starter. You would probably say that last year, Will was the starter by a larger margin, that Julian and Lincoln were closer throughout this competition than Will and Devin were last year. So with that being the case, that Julian and Lincoln are a little closer, neither of them have any experience at all. Both of them have 1 game of experience. How do you orchestrate this as you roll into Grambling in Ohio? And we've heard people ask Ryan Day about it. How does he plan on handling it? Specifically to Lincoln, he wouldn't answer specifically to anybody. He just kept saying, we're going to try. And this is, I'm talking on the Wednesday night lightning round at the Woody. He was just saying, yeah, obviously we're going to try to get these, the backup guys as many snaps as we can. Where do you come out on this? You've got Julian, who has 2 games to get ready before Big Ten play. So 2 games against Grambling and Ohio University, and then up to Washington to play in a really tough environment where he is going to be the Arch Manning. He's going to be on the opposite side of that in a stadium that's incredibly loud and a very passionate fan base that's going to be welcoming in the number 1 team. It's going to be a madhouse. And Julian saying could have 3 full games under his belt, or he could potentially have, 2.5, depending on how much you play him in these next 2 games. So where do you stand? Because you also want Lincoln, who, let's be honest, Julian, not the biggest guy. There is injury risk, probably more so than most, just based on his size. And you definitely want Lincoln to get some feel and build a little chemistry as well. So what is the perfect combination there? I think we all know that this game's not going to be close. It's pretty much a name your score game. In fact, I'll just go ahead and make my prediction right now. A name your score game. I think that Ryan Day will want the score to be 63-10. So I'm going to go ahead and predict the score that he's going to name, 63-10. I'll go with that. If Julian starts off slow against Washington, after you see them both play against these 2 teams, let's say Lincoln looks really good against Grambling in Ohio in the 3rd and the 4th quarter, and then Julian starts off slow against Washington, do you maybe set yourself up for the beginnings of a quarterback controversy? Certainly don't want that. Will that factor into the decision? I don't know. I'm always curious how coaches are going to handle this because there is no right answer. There is no perfect answer. You will be second guessed if it goes the opposite way, right? Like if you don't play Lincoln and Julian ends up getting hurt, everybody's going to say that's, you made the wrong choice. Or if you play Julian, the first half and Lincoln, the most of the 3rd quarter and a little bit of the 4th quarter, and then you put in Tavian. Well, now if Julian's not ready at Washington, you should have played him more in the first 2 games. It's a lose-lose potentially. So I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that last year we did not see much Devin. So I would expect it to be similar. If it's not, I would wonder why it's not similar. But Julian's saying the Iceman, Super Saiyan, Slaying Saiyan, King Julian, the babyface assassin. I haven't settled on where I'm going to go with this, but I will go somewhere. I can't wait to see him in action again. We're going to see this game against Grambling, and I don't expect to see a whole lot of action from the other starters except the quarterback. That means we get to see a whole lot of work from a bunch of the younger dudes, a bunch of the freshmen, and of course, we all know the big name freshmen, right? The freshmen everybody wants to see. And when it's like people seem to be like, I've got this. All right, we're back. So you get to see these freshmen that you haven't seen, right? You haven't seen them play yet for Ohio State. And of course, everybody wants to see the big time freshman. And the one that I think most people are clamoring to see the most this week, quite honestly, not for really the right reasons, I would say, because I don't think that James Peoples, obviously he didn't have a great game, right? We all know he didn't have a great game, 2 yards a carry, 10 carries, not nearly good enough, made some bad decisions as far as where he was going to go with the rock. And people want to see Bo. They want to see Bo Jackson, and they're ready to jump off the James Peoples wagon. I mean, people who have been saying, like, all the buzz I'm hearing around the Woody is they really believe in James Peoples. Like, these type of people are already saying, I think I want to see a little more of Bo. If I was a believer in James Peoples 2 weeks ago, I'm certainly not thinking any differently than after that Texas game. It's one game. Everybody's entitled to a lousy game. Let's keep in mind, this dude was mop-up duty last year, strictly, only mop-up duty. He wasn't coming in games of any consequence and playing any real legitimate competitive snaps. Now he's playing against the number 1 team in the country in a huge game, his hometown team, all his family and friends back home watching, a school he almost went to, ton of pressure. Obviously, he didn't do good. That doesn't mean he's not good. But I do think we are going to see a lot of Bo, and I do think a lot of people are going to start seeing this for what it is, and that is Bo Jackson is just on a different level as a playmaking running back, which I've said all spring, this was not going to be a situation with Bo Jackson like it was for James Peoples last year, where Peoples was coming in mop-up duty and averaging just 4 yards a carry. But that Bo was going to be eating into carries, whether that would be CJ Donaldson or Peoples, didn't know. But without a doubt, we were going to see Bo play quite a bit more than we saw James play last year, not just because these two starters, Donaldson and Peoples, aren't as good as Quinn, Sean, and Travion, but because Bo is the truth. He's the truth. At 6 foot, 1/2 inch, 222 pounds right now. He has better vision than both of them. He has breakaway speed more so than James. He's almost as powerful as CJ. And flat out, he's just the best back in the room. He's the best back in the room. And he's ready as a freshman. Not to mention, I don't know how much this matters. This is Locke's guy, right? Like, this is Locke's big win. Bo is his guy. He walked in, Peoples was there. And I mean, like, I'm not saying that means everything, but, you know, people tend to be enamored with their guy, right? He went out, worked really hard, beat Georgia for him, and you can kind of see the twinkle and the sparkle in his eye when he talks about Bo. So I think we will see a lot of Bo. I think that we're going to come out of this with a lot of people saying what we've been saying here on the show for a long time, like, okay, that guy's going to have to play more this year. Now, everybody's looking forward to seeing Bo, but while I am looking forward to seeing Bo, I am also very much looking forward to seeing 32. Isaiah West is a future fan favorite. If you've never watched him stylistically, think Carlos Hyde, right? Like, whichever route is going to get him the most yards is the route he's taking, whether that be running around you or running through your chest. That's the way he's going. Doesn't go down easy. Watch his highlights, and there are several where there are 6 dudes, and he's just moving a mound of guys. They can't put him on the ground, but the refs can't blow the whistle because it's still moving. The dude is got the biggest thighs you've ever seen on a 17, 18-year-old kid. Doesn't have the breakaway speed of Bo Jackson. Doesn't have the shifty hips of James Peoples. Doesn't have the power of CJ Donaldson, maybe. But he has no deficiency, and he's good at all those stuff. He's just good at everything. I think he is really fast from 0 to 60. I think he's got really good acceleration, great vision and balance. In addition to that, an Emeka Egbuka style young guy. I mean, we're talking about a guy who sounds like he is 28 years old. Every time we've ever talked to him, you can look back. He was on the show with me. He's just a fantastic young guy, and absolutely wanted to be at Ohio State because he believes he's the best, wanted to play with and against the best. That's why he flipped to Kentucky the day he walked into the Woody. Boom, done. This is where I'm coming. And I love this guy. So cannot wait to see Isaiah West at wide receiver. We know Quincy Porter is a first-round talent. We all can't wait to see more Quincy. He is massive. He has a huge catch radius, another Emeka Egbuka style personality. And he's just got all the right stuff, man. Great catches. He's kind of interestingly enough, like for a guy with really long legs, not a very long strider, which makes him like he can cut a lot faster than a lot of these guys we see with long legs. Got a little bit of jittery to him, which is different for a dude that tall. And he uses his body in such a smooth way to be able to box, almost like a basketball player. A lot of guys don't use their height great. He uses it perfectly, and he's strong. First round guy. We know this, right? Can't wait to see him. We can't wait to see Mylan Graham, second year Dynamo, also with clear first round ability. I'm also looking forward to seeing Bryson Rogers. Bryson Rogers, a guy who I think has the ability to be a total stud and probably gets talked about maybe less than any potential big-time receiver we've ever had. I think Bryson Rogers would be starting in the slot at 130 schools around the country. I think he'd be starting, potentially being the number 1 at 15 of 18 of the Big Ten schools. He's just a bona fide dude, and he's waited his turn. I hope we get to see him plenty in the next 2 games. But as far as the freshmen go, it's Phillip Bell. Phillip Bell is a bona fide dude, and he's really interesting, got a great story, and really easy to root for. A guy out of California who started off in the class ranked very high, didn't end up that way. He emerged quick onto the scene, and he eventually transfers to Mission Viejo. His stats drop. He runs an 11.83 100 meter, which is not fast, but he's 6'2", 195, and a highlight reel of just ridiculous catches. Great hands, and just seems to have a knack for getting open. We've seen that since he's been on campus. We saw it in the spring, and we started saying around here, when Brian Hartline picks you, you're the 5-star. Brian Hartline picked him, and he's done nothing but proven Brian right. When we went down to practice with Buckeye Huddle, myself and Mark Givler kind of reconvened afterwards and did a little shot inside the Woody and talked about what we had seen. And one of the guys that stood out to both of us amongst all the guys was Phil Bell, just consistently making plays as a freshman. I think we'll see some of that in the next couple of games. So certainly looking out for Phil. In addition to that, Phil, a guy who right before he was going to make his decision between Ohio State and USC as to where he was going to go, loses his mom, Samantha, and then goes through this big internal family fight over custody of him and his sister, suing the school district. There was lawsuits involved and stuff. It just made this young guy's life a living hell while he was dealing with losing his mom. And certainly a guy that, coming to Ohio State, getting away from that crap, seems like it's helping him, and you just feel great for him and want to root for him in those circumstances. He is absolutely at the right place to get the support that he needs. So I feel great for him. Moving on to the defensive line, Zion Grady, Sitanilei. Again, Mark and I talked about this and how we are so much less concerned about defensive end recruiting after seeing Zion Grady and Sitanilei work with the big dog defensive ends. These guys look like they're ready, way ahead of schedule. They're both just big body dogs, and we're going to get to see them. Of course, everybody wants to see them. Jarquez Carter, the guy I'm really looking forward to seeing ever since the first time I watched this guy's film. Here on this show, I said, we got ourselves potentially a baby Warren Sapp, and Ohio State has got to get this guy. Got to land him. The twitch, the power, the explosion, the tenacity, the upper body strength. And I was convinced that he was not just an underrated prospect, but an absolutely must-get Buckeye and a very big position in need. Max Roy, Trajan Odom, fine players, developmental guys. Jarquez Carter, an impact player, lower half, upper half strength, 225 bench press, 30 reps as a senior in high school, 32 led Ohio State, Donovan Jackson, and Jarquez Carter were 32 this year. I talked to Jarquez after his first visit to Ohio State. He was really surprised because he thought Ohio would be mountains and mountain lions. Fell in love with Columbus. It was an actual city. And I predicted that he would be passing up Jason Moore. And while we can't say for sure because Jason was injured, if that's what happened in the Texas game, Jarquez Carter played 3 snaps at a crucial time in the biggest game of the regular season. And that pretty much tells us everything we need to know about how much they trust Quez. And he's the real deal, the absolute real deal, the next big time dude in the interior of this defense. Now, I have watched the All 22 back several times, watched some more breakdowns, and I don't think I gave enough praise my first time around when I gave the grades to KMAC and Edric Houston. These dudes absolutely manhandled the Texas interior linemen. They just manhandled them. 39 and 38 snaps respectively, which is a big load of production, and they didn't drop off. They were just beating butts, whooping them all day. Jarquez can be one of those dudes, and when we talk about potentially being worried about, the guys behind them falling off, the talent not being quite up to snuff, the way Patricia's playing this defense with Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson, Arvell Reed, got different guys, your best guys just lining up at tackle. Bo Atkinson was in at tackle. you're really just using your best guys to do whatever it is you need to do. So it puts less snaps and less pressure on those guys. Will Smith Jr., I think 16 snaps, and he did okay, had some good plays, had some not so good plays, promising, better than I thought, better than I expected, and really happy for him, happy for us. That looked better, better than I thought. Ty Malone wasn't bad. He doesn't really fit in with the athleticism. He's just not, it's not great, but he's a serviceable dude. But he only played 14 snaps. And if you can keep that like that, where you're not having to rely on those guys for a lot of snaps, that's great. So another guy I'm looking out for, how about the story of last cycle on the offensive line? Now, we're definitely going to see some Carter Lowe, right? Big left tackle, top 50 overall prospect out of Toledo. Physically, he looks fantastic, ready to go, and I think we'll see him. But how about Jake Cook, man? I was very lucky, and if you were one of the ones who was watching me back then, Jake Cook out of Westerville North kind of kept me in the loop during his recruitment and his camps and allowed me to kind of share what he was telling me here on the show. A kid who was a chubby, overachieving wrestler and football player as a sophomore in high school, changed his habits, started working out hard, lost all his baby fat, and got himself offered to Louisville and committed. And obviously he wanted to be at Ohio State. It was his dream. And after several camps at Ohio State and being let down to the point of leaving one and starting to peer recruit immediately after he left for other kids to come to Louisville, he finally got that call from Justin Fry, and he accepted the offer on the spot in the phone call. And this is just it was a great story, man. It was a great story. However, as much as I like Jake, I did not think Jake would come to Ohio State and be what he is now. Like, Jake was kind of originally projected as a developmental guy who maybe year 4, year 5 can develop into a starter at Ohio State, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just a career backup, a bit player. And Jake comes in and immediately passes Deontay Armstrong, who's a year older than him, and is now the number 2 left guard. We got to see him in the spring game go head-to-head against Ty Malone, and he got as many wins as Malone got wins. And that's a 5th-year senior, top 100 overall guy in Ty Malone. So we are in good shape on the offensive line. Jake Cook, one of those reasons why. I think we're going to get to see him on Saturday. Really excited about that, and excited for him to get his first run, as well as Javon McFadden out of Maryland. I think these are 2 guards of the future. I would also love to see a little Gabe Van Sickle. We might see all these guys, and I'm pumped for that. And finally, the last guy I want to bring up that I am very much looking forward to seeing, the other tight end, Brody Lennon. Brody Lennon at 6'4", 230 out of Gates Mills in Cleveland, Ohio. Gates Mills, an academy, a very prestigious school, not the best competition. One of the longest highlight reels in high school you'll ever see, because he's not just an insane athlete on offense, but on defense. I think this dude is a top 5 freak athlete in this class. We're talking about a 6'4", 230-pound tight end who was clocked analytically running as fast as Bo Jackson. And Bo Jackson is a breakaway, take it to the house running back. Brody Lennon as fast as him. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Brody Lennon. Now, Brody wasn't here for spring, couldn't graduate early, so he was just here for fall, was picking things up fast. I think he may be past Max LeBlanc at this point, which would only make him the 6th tight end because this room is so doggone loaded. But keep in mind, we saw 5 tight ends play against Texas, which means we're probably going to see all 7 of them play against Grambling and Ohio. So excited, especially for the fans who have yet to see Brody Lennon, to get a look at this kid. And when we talk about truly elite classes, 2025, obviously loaded at the top, but we've talked about those bottom 10 guys of a class. 3 out of 10 is the average who end up being contributors. So many of them end up leaving or never playing much at all for you. And if you can hit about 5 out of those 10 in the bottom 10, and you're got a pretty good average with the guys at the top, it can be a truly elite class. And I think that this class of 2025 going to be really special, in particular because of the bottom of this class that includes a bunch of great evaluations, total dogs, and we are going to get to see them in the next couple of games. And I am super pumped for that. Now, that's that with that. Predictions for the game, as I said, I think the Bucks are going to win 63-10. I'm going to go with Julian Sayin with 3 touchdown passes, Bo Jackson as the leading rusher in the game, Mylan Graham as the leading receiving yards in the game. We will go with Brandon Inniss leading receptions in the game. Riley Pettijohn, freshman Riley Pettijohn, the leading tackler in this game. He will have a sack as well. I'm going to say Sitanilei gets himself a sack and TJ Alford gets himself a sack. Also excited to see TJ out there. And really excited for Bryson as well. So those my predictions for this week. Predictions for last week, I had the Buckeyes 27-7. They did win by 7. So I was onto something there, but I thought we would see a much more aggressive game plan because a conservative game plan just seemed way too damn obvious, right? I was wrong about that one. I did not think we would see a defense that looked like Jim Knowles' defense. And I thought all offseason, by the time we got to the middle of the season, this would look like Matt Patricia's defense, and we wouldn't think that this was Jim Knowles' defense at all. And as we moved on further and further, and we saw these guys trusting him more and more, we were hearing about how everybody loved him, that we would see more and more implemented. And boy, this thing not only didn't look much at all like Jim Knowles' defense, it was more dissimilar than it was similar. The majority of this game was odd fronts, and that is just amazing. It's kind of got everything that we've been clamoring for the last couple of years, including one of the most important things, and that is the way they're utilizing Arvell Reese. We have that guy, right? That guy, the Arvell, whoever he is, that athlete, that kind of guy, that special athlete is a difference maker. He's the best athlete on the field. And Ohio State hasn't been able to get that guy because they haven't utilized him. Well, with Arvell, that really opens the door for some special players, and I'm really excited about that. Now, Julian Sayin, outplaying Arch Manning, nailed that one. Ohio State, Jarquez Carter, an impact freshman against Texas, nailed that one. Will Smith Jr. wasn't really buying it, and I think Will outplayed what I thought he was going to do. So X right there. I did not nail that one. That's a wrong one. Played 16 snaps. I'm starting to lean towards I could be totally wrong about the Will Smith Jr., though it wasn't because I didn't believe in his talent. It was more that I was not believing in this hype. So there is someone who you all want to talk to me about as far as talent goes, right? That's CJ Hicks. And when we talk about CJ Hicks, if you are new to the show, CJ Hicks is a guy that year 1, year 2 of his career was a huge fan of. Couldn't understand why we couldn't see him get on the field in year 2. We enter into year 3. I'm stoked to see him. I thought that it was going to be Cody in a combination of CJ Hicks and Sonny, and then it didn't really matter who started between CJ Hicks and Sonny. Both were going to be really, really good, and we would see both of them plenty. Now, it became very apparent after a couple of games that CJ Hicks was just not a good linebacker. He wasn't. He couldn't react fast. He had a hard time bringing people down. He caught blocks. He played pity pat, and they decided to go ahead and move him down to edge this year. Now, everybody was really excited about that. Really, really excited that he was going to get moved down to edge, and thought that this was going to be something that was going to be very consequential to the defense. They thought that Matt Patricia working with CJ Hicks was going to be amazing. They continually threw around Abdul Carter, which I thought was just absurd. Abdul Carter was a really, really good football player. And then they moved him down to edge, and he was an even better football player because he was suited for there. When we look at CJ Hicks' body, He's way better suited for linebacker than edge. He has a difficult time getting off blocks. And it's just something that I didn't think would be of consequence. In addition to that, with the Matt Patricia hire, I strongly suspected, borderline knew 100%, that if Matt Patricia was going to weaponize someone, and I said it 25 times, if he's going to come in and weaponize someone, meaning he's going to take someone and say, I'm going to use this guy in 100 different ways, it is going to be Arvell Reese, not CJ Hicks. And sure enough, that's 100% what happened. So definitely right there, like 100%, I was definitively right about that. So CJ Hicks in this game, many of you tagged me as if to say, not as if to say, you straight out said, what do you have to say now? So I thought, why don't I just give a CJ Hicks report? And some of you guys get mad at me when I say something that isn't a glowing review about a player. And I understand why you would feel that way. But the truth is, there's a lot of people who just say good things about every player. And that to me just seems like, all right, you're just disingenuous. Like, I don't believe anything you say when I only hear you say everything's great and everything's peaches and cream. For instance, I listened to a bunch of people when Sam Williams-Dixon went in the portal, came back out of the portal and came back into the roster, that Sam Williams-Dixon, oh, he's back. That's exciting. He's going to be the number 3 running back behind CJ Donaldson and James Peoples. And I said, that's not going to happen. Sam Williams-Dixon is not a very good running back. If he's ever playing significant snaps at Ohio State, that's an issue. And there are 2 freshmen, not 1, but 2, who are immediately going to jump him on the depth chart in Bo Jackson and Isaiah West. I think that's where we're at. Now, I don't say that to be mean to Sam Williams-Dixon. Keep in mind, these are all professionals now. They're all making money off rev share, some of them more than many of the people watching this show. And, you know, it's okay to just be honest about it. I like Sam Williams-Dixon. I'm happy he's a Buckeye. He's a Buckeye football player from the state of Ohio, and I root for him. But it's just what it is. He is number 5. I think he'll be number 6 after Turbo gets it going. That's the way I see it playing out. If you're always 100% positive that everybody's great and everything's fantastic, then it's just difficult to take you seriously, in my opinion. James Peoples. People were comparing James Peoples to J.K. Dobbins. I'm not going to jump on that train. I don't think he's anywhere near J.K. Dobbins' skill set. And I think he can be a really good back. I don't think he has I don't think he has the talent to be a great back. And I do think that Bo Jackson does have that talent. On and on and on. We could go with the highs and the lows here. But my point is, I have to say when I feel something negative, not negative, but not perfect, right? Not great. Jason Moore was going to be a star, right? Everybody was saying that at the beginning of last year. No, I don't think Jason Moore is going to be a star. I think Jason Moore is a very passive guy, and I don't think he's going to be an impact player at all. Jason Moore got like 17 snaps last year, but in the spring and in the fall, they were telling us that he was a perfect nose tackle or a perfect 3-tech in this system, and he never even played. This year, it's becoming very apparent, and the spring game was seriously apparent when he was getting blown off the ball by Gabe Van Sickle, that this dude just doesn't got it at this point in his career, maybe never will. And I think it's okay to be honest about it. And that led me to the CJ Hicks thing. Now, when it comes to CJ Hicks, I just want to say this guy impressed me in fall practice right off the rip. Because when we saw him in the spring game, which, by the way, some people did say to me in the spring game, what do you got to say now? Which was just utterly hysterical, man. The spring game was a bad showing by CJ Hicks. And I watched people write about him having a good performance. They called it sacks. Like, it was not good. It was really not good. Because the thing is, guys, it's not about a couple plays that flash. It's about every play you play. How many bad plays does it take to erase a good play? How many? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that a good play when you are an unblocked defender that may look like a good play. The question is, how many other guys on the roster at the same position can make that play unblocked? Is there something inherently special about you? Let's go over CJ Hicks' game. For one, I think he looks much better at edge than he did at linebacker. And for that, I was wrong because I thought he was better suited just body type wise as a linebacker. And he looks better, and I mean that in a way that I didn't think he would, and that's in the run game. However, not when he's blocked. But I'll give you an example. He had 3 plays in the game, 19 snaps, 3 plays. He's always struggled with a couple of things. He's struggled getting off blocks. He has struggled tackling, bringing guys to the ground. Those are things he's struggled with. And he had 3 plays. One of them, he was lined up at edge. Sonny comes, they're at about the 10-yard line, defending their goal line. Sonny taps him on the side, and there's a twist going on. And he twists down to the A gap and is able to, there's a back kind of starting to fall forward. He's able to take out his legs and make the tackle. And the speed with which he reacted down the line to make that tackle was very impressive. It was a very good play. The second play that he made, he was getting blocked by a tackle. Caden Curry was playing nose guard, and Caden Curry came in the backfield and knocked the back off his route a little bit, and he ran kind of right behind CJ's hip. CJ was able to turn away from the guy blocking him the other way and lunge out and take his legs out from under him. It was a heady play with quick reaction time, and he was able to get off his block by turning around the other way, but he made the play, and it's a good play. Now, here's the question. He was in for Kenyatta Jackson. Does Kenyatta Jackson make those 2 plays? Yes. Does Kenyatta Jackson make those 2 plays and maybe another? Can't say. He wasn't in. He had a concussion that he got knocking heads with CJ Hicks. Actually, I apologize. Was it the tackle? It might have been the twist tackle, the first one that Kenyatta got hit in the head. They were on the field at the same time. But it was CJ Hicks' head colliding with Kenyatta Jackson that gave him the concussion. I had to slow that down and take a little picture of it. But then we get to the final play of the game. The final play of the game, which is the play that everybody tagged me in. And I'm just like, are you guys serious now? You got a right tackle who totally misses his assignment, doesn't even put eyeballs on Hicks, and he runs directly to the quarterback. Arch is a bigger guy, right? Powerful base, and Hicks, with a free run, isn't able to bring him to the ground. That's okay. That can happen. But you can't let him get that pass off, and you sure as hell cannot let him complete that pass, because if Caleb isn't there, that drive is still going on. With a free run, you better not let that pass get off. It sure as hell better not be complete. That's exactly what happened. And these are all my criticisms of him the entire time. Can't get off a block. He was a 0.0% pass rush win rate, which means he never got off a block to do anything effective in a pass rush. And then poor tackling. Can't get people to the ground. That pass, let's put it this way. If Kenyatta Jackson was in that spot, what happens? Arch doesn't get that pass off. Doesn't get it off. So my point is, I don't say this to crap on the guy. I'm rooting for the guy. I would so much rather this dude resurrect his career, be a stud at Ohio State his senior year, make it to the NFL, than be right. I tell you when I'm wrong all the time. This is one I'd love to be wrong about, because it means this dude's going to the NFL and living his dream. I think I'd rather, who is selfish enough to say I'd rather be right than watch this guy live his dream? All I'm saying is a couple of plays don't make an outing. And when we look at that final play that everybody tagged me in, it did end the game. That's great. That's really all that matters. However, Kenyatta Jackson does not let that pass get off, and he was in for Kenyatta. So all All in all, I think he looks better than he did at linebacker. I think it will only continue to get better. Do I think it'll be a largely consequential move on this defense? No, I still don't. But, that's okay. Either way, I'm rooting for him. I'll keep the CJ Hicks report updated because for whatever reason, the Ohio State fan base is intoxicated by CJ Hicks. Totally intoxicated. By the way, I will say Landon Treadwell, former Penn State offensive lineman who does film breakdowns, does a podcast, put out a clip of Arvell Reese and everything he did, breaking down his film. And he titled it, "Is Arvell Reese the next Abdul Carter?" Now, that's a Penn State guy, and I just think it's hilarious. Because the truth is, Arvell always was going to be that dude that everybody wanted to call CJ. CJ said, they've been calling me Duel, right? That was just never going to happen. Not going to happen. But Arvell absolutely could be that dude. Arvell absolutely could be that kind of draft pick. And that's the man. Now, let's get to some great news. Great news? No, let's get to a request. I got an email, and the title of the email was, let me get this right. I want to make sure I get this right for you guys. Vote for my little Juck Eye, huh? How could you not look that email up? What is that? All right, the email is from James Goebert. James Goebert has a little girl, and he sent me pictures of her in her Script Ohio shirt. She's adorable. She's 3 years old, and she is in the quarterfinals for the Toddler of the Year contest with a grand prize of $25,000. Now, our little Mary Kate has had a lot of surgeries. She's got a rare disease. She's had heart surgery. She's had spinal cord surgery. She's going to need to have a titanium rod inserted into her spine. There are many more to come, and they're not asking for a dime from us. They just want to get the message out that they're trying to win this Toddler of the Year contest with a grand prize of $25,000. And it would really go a long way in helping them. And I do not sit up here and read you a bunch of garbage ads. I've been turning the majority of those down since the time I started this show. I'll ask you to like the show, subscribe to the show. But today, if you could really do something that would just absolutely make me feel like I've really accomplished something in this show, it would be to help them out. And I'm going to leave that link in the description of the show, right up at the top. All you got to do is click on it and vote for Mary Kate. Let's show them the power of Buckeye Nation. All right, guys, talk to you soon. Juck and Bucks out.